It was a warm summer evening in the small town of Chesterville, the kind of town where everyone knows everyone, and secrets are as rare as a blue moon. But that evening a carnival came to town. It wasn't the usual one that visited every year. No, this one seemed different. The posters appeared overnight, plastered on walls, telephone poles, and even in the windows of the closed-down grocery store. "Come one, come all," they read, "to the most wondrous and mysterious carnival you've ever seen." Curiosity sparked, and the townsfolk gathered at the edge of the field where the carnival had set up. Colorful tents, twinkling lights, and the distant sound of calliope music drew them in. Among the crowd were our protagonists: Emily, a high school teacher, Jake, a mechanic, and Sarah, a single mother with her 8-year-old son Billy. They were drawn to the carnival for different reasons. Emily, hoping for a break from her routine; Jake, looking to blow off some steam after a long week; and Sarah, wanting to give Billy a night of joy. The air was filled with the scent of popcorn and cotton candy, and laughter echoed around them. But as the night went on, an eerie feeling settled over the carnival. Emily was the first to notice something strange. She spotted a tent at the far end, isolated from the rest. The sign above it read, "Madame Zora, fortune teller." Emily, with a skeptical mind but an adventurous spirit, decided to see what her future held. Inside, the tent was dimly lit by a single lamp. Madame Zora, an old woman with piercing eyes, motioned for Emily to sit. The fortune teller took Emily's hand and began to speak in a low, melodic voice. "You seek change, but be wary of what you wish for. The path ahead is fraught with shadows." Emily left the tent feeling unnerved. The fortune teller's words echoed in her mind as she rejoined her friends. Jake, meanwhile, was at the ring toss game trying to win a stuffed animal for Sarah. He noticed the game operator, a man with a crooked smile, was watching him intently. When Jake finally won, the operator handed him the prize with an unsettling grin. "Enjoy your prize," he said, his voice dripping with a strange tone that made Jake's skin crawl. As the night wore on, Sarah and Billy decided to ride the Ferris wheel. From the top, they could see the entire carnival and the town beyond. It was a breathtaking view, but as they descended, Billy pointed out a man standing by the entrance, staring directly at them. "Mom, that man looks scary," Billy whispered. Sarah glanced over and saw the figure. He was tall, with a face hidden in shadows. She tried to brush it off, telling Billy it was just her imagination. By midnight the crowd had thinned, and the carnival seemed to take on a more sinister tone. The music was slower, almost haunting, and the laughter had died down to nervous giggles. Emily, Jake, Sarah, and Billy decided it was time to leave. As they walked towards the exit, they noticed something odd. The path they came in on was no longer there. The lights of the carnival flickered, and the atmosphere grew heavy with an unnatural fog. Panic set in. They searched for another way out but found themselves in a maze of tents and stalls that seemed to shift and change. Every turn led them back to the heart of the carnival. The once joyous place now felt like a trap. Then the man Billy had seen earlier appeared before them. His face was still shrouded in darkness, but his presence was undeniable. He spoke in a voice that was both calm and menacing. "You shouldn't have come here," he said. "This carnival isn't meant for you." They tried to reason with him, but his answers were cryptic. "The carnival has chosen you," he repeated over and over. The realization hit them all at once. They were stuck, and there was no way out. The carnival was not just a place of entertainment but a trap for the unwary. The next morning, the townsfolk found the field empty. No sign of the carnival remained, as if it had never been there. Only the belongings of Emily, Jake, Sarah, and Billy were found at the edge of the field. The town was left to wonder and whisper about the carnival that came and took away their own. So, remember, if you ever come across a carnival that seems too good to be true, think twice before entering. You never know if you'll be able to leave once you step inside. It was late June in the small town of Rockwell, a town known for its quiet streets and friendly neighbors. Every year, the town looked forward to the annual summer carnival, a weekend of fun, games, and festivities. But this year, the carnival was different. A new traveling show, Cirque de Mystère, had taken over the event, promising thrills and chills like never before. The townsfolk were excited, intrigued by the exotic posters that had been put up around town. Among them were Laura, a local journalist, Mike, a high school coach, and Jenna, a college student home for the summer. They decided to go together, eager to see what the fuss was about. As they arrived at the carnival grounds, they were greeted by the usual sights and sounds: brightly lit rides, the smell of funnel cakes, and children laughing. But there was an undercurrent of something unsettling, a feeling that they couldn't quite shake. Laura, always curious and looking for a story, noticed a small tent tucked away behind the main attractions. The sign read, "The Hall of Mirrors, enter if you dare." She convinced Mike and Jenna to join her. They entered the tent and immediately the atmosphere changed. The air was cool and the light was dim. The mirrors lined the walls, creating a labyrinth of reflections. As they ventured deeper, they became separated. Laura turned a corner and found herself staring at a distorted version of herself. The mirror seemed to twist her features into something grotesque. She shook her head and moved on, trying to find her friends. Mike, meanwhile, was having his own troubles. The mirrors seemed to close in on him, creating a sense of claustrophobia. He could hear the faint sound of footsteps behind him, but every time he turned, there was nothing there. His heart pounded in his chest as he tried to find his way out. Jenna found herself in front of a mirror that didn't reflect her at all. Instead, it showed a dark, empty room. She reached out to touch the glass, and it felt cold and solid. She felt a chill run down her spine as she pulled her hand away, a sense of dread settling over her. Back outside, the carnival continued as usual. Families were enjoying the rides and games, unaware of the terror unfolding in the Hall of Mirrors. Laura finally found an exit and stumbled out into the fresh air. She looked around for Mike and Jenna, but there was no sign of them. Panic set in as she realized they were still inside. She ran to the nearest carnival worker, a man in a red coat and top hat. She explained what had happened, but he simply smiled and said, "The Hall of Mirrors has a way of playing tricks on people. They'll find their way out." Laura wasn't convinced. She decided to go back in, determined to find her friends. She retraced her steps, trying to remember which way they had gone. The mirrors seemed to mock her, reflecting her fear and desperation. Mike, still lost, was growing more agitated. He punched a mirror in frustration, only to find it shatter into countless pieces. But instead of relief, he felt a sense of dread. The broken mirror revealed a hidden passage behind it. He hesitated, then stepped through, hoping it would lead him to safety. Jenna, meanwhile, had sat down trying to calm her nerves. She heard Laura calling her name and got up, following the sound. She turned a corner and found Laura, relief washing over her. Together, they called out for Mike. Mike, hearing their voices, followed the hidden passage until he found an exit. He emerged from the tent, scratched and bruised but relieved to be out. He spotted Laura and Jenna and ran over to them, hugging them tightly. They quickly left the carnival, not looking back. As they walked away, Laura couldn't shake the feeling that they had narrowly escaped something truly dangerous. They agreed to never speak of the Hall of Mirrors again. The next day, Laura wrote an article about the carnival, but she left out their terrifying experience. The carnival left town, and life in Rockwell returned to normal. But the memory of that night lingered, a reminder that sometimes, curiosity can lead you down dark and twisted paths. So, the next time you see a carnival with promises of thrills and chills, remember this story. Not all attractions are meant to be experienced, and some mysteries are better left unsolved. The small town of Riverton was buzzing with excitement. It was the first time in decades that a carnival had come to town. The Ferris wheel, the brightly lit midway, and the smell of fried dough filled the air. Among the eager visitors were Jack, a high school senior, his girlfriend Lily, and their friends Mark and Emma. They had been looking forward to this night for weeks. The carnival had everything you would expect: rides, games, and food stands. But there was one attraction that caught their eye: a large, dark tent at the edge of the grounds with a sign that read, "The Maze of Terror." Jack, always the thrill-seeker, convinced his friends to check it out. Inside the tent, the atmosphere was heavy and dark. The entrance to the maze was narrow and the only light came from flickering bulbs hanging from the ceiling. A carnival worker, dressed in a tattered costume, handed them each a small flashlight. "Good luck," he said with a crooked smile. The group entered the maze, the walls covered in dark fabric that absorbed the little light available. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth. The narrow corridors twisted and turned, creating a sense of disorientation. The sounds of the carnival outside faded away, replaced by the echo of their footsteps and nervous laughter. Jack led the way, holding Lily's hand tightly. Mark and Emma followed closely behind. As they ventured deeper, the maze seemed to close in around them. The walls were lined with creepy props, fake cobwebs, eerie paintings, and occasionally, a mannequin that looked unnervingly lifelike. Halfway through, they came to a fork in the path. Jack suggested splitting up to find the quickest way out. Despite their initial hesitation, the group agreed. Jack and Lily took the left path, while Mark and Emma went right. Jack and Lily's path led them to a series of dead ends. The farther they went, the more nervous Lily became. Jack tried to reassure her, but he was starting to feel uneasy himself. They turned another corner and found themselves in a small room with a single door. The door creaked as Jack pushed it open, revealing a narrow hallway lined with mirrors. Meanwhile, Mark and Emma were having their own troubles. Their path seemed to go on forever, and they hadn't seen anyone else since they split up. Mark's flashlight flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. Emma's flashlight was still working, but the beam was weak. They pressed on, hoping to find an exit soon. Back in the Hall of Mirrors, Jack and Lily were struggling to find their way. The reflections distorted their sense of direction, making it hard to tell which way was out. As they moved through the maze, they heard faint whispers, as if someone was watching them. Jack tightened his grip on Lily's hand, trying to keep her calm. Mark and Emma finally stumbled upon a door. They opened it cautiously, and found themselves in what appeared to be an old storage room. The room was filled with dusty boxes and old carnival props. A sense of dread washed over them as they realized they were lost. They decided to backtrack, hoping to find the main path again. Jack and Lily finally found an exit from the Hall of Mirrors, only to be greeted by a narrow, dark tunnel. They hesitated, but knew they had to keep moving. The tunnel was long and winding, and the air was cold and damp. They felt as if they were being watched, but every time they turned around there was nothing there. Mark and Emma, retracing their steps, heard the faint sound of footsteps behind them. They quickened their pace, trying to ignore the growing fear. The sound grew louder and they broke into a run, desperate to find their friends. Jack and Lily reached the end of the tunnel and pushed open a heavy door. They stumbled out into the night air, gasping in relief. They were on the other side of the carnival, far from where they had entered. They waited anxiously for Mark and Emma, hoping they had made it out too. Minutes felt like hours, but finally, Mark and Emma emerged from the maze, looking shaken but unharmed. The four friends embraced, grateful to be reunited. They quickly left the carnival grounds, the thrill of the night overshadowed by their terrifying experience. The next day, Jack, Lily, Mark, and Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the maze. They returned to the carnival, but the tent was gone. When they asked the carnival workers about it, they were met with blank stares. No one seemed to know what they were talking about. As they walked away, they couldn't help but wonder if the maze of terror was just a bad dream. But the fear they felt was all too real, a reminder that sometimes the scariest things are the ones we can't explain.